What's going on, guys? You got Kwasi here for Kwasi Animation Studio, where you presently are, and Kwasi Media Network. As of right now, we're about to do lesson 3. Yes, lesson 3. So we're going to talk about animation again, multiple characters, and interactions. So again, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. It's not going to be too complex, but it's to the point. So let's close this out. I'm going to close this one out. And we have a set in here. So like I told you the other day, we're gonna bring in a set. So the character we have is of course still Crimson, but this scene that you're seeing is from my series Rise of the Neruleans, and this is called King's Court. This is from the anime version of it, but when I start doing I have the other series called Masters of Gilda, because this is where they are on the world called Gilda. But in Masters of Gilda, the environment is different. Okay. Nonetheless, for the anime version, because that was more of a realistic looking one. So for the anime version, this is the area. It's simple. I didn't make it really big or whatever. It's supposed to kind of be isolated or whatnot. And then, of course, I added another character to the scene, which would be actually her father, Zilker. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to switch up the animation just a little bit. So we're going to go into animation tab, and where her head turns, we're going to get rid of that because I want her to be looking at her dad. So we're not going to have that part. Okay. So when she lands, she's just going to be looking at her dad. So that also means we're going to change up the camera animation. So we're going to go to the camera. Okay. So we click the camera, and the camera animation itself is going to, we're just going to swap it around a little bit. All right. So I'm going to open it up, and I know that when it comes down, we're seeing her, right? But this time we're going to, once it's going to turn, this time it's going to turn all the way around. Okay. So I'm just going to take it. I'm going to go to the transform properties, and we're just going to spin it around and push it down a little. And in this case, we're going to make sure that it's behind her and hope that it doesn't do a 360-degree wrap, because sometimes that happens. So let me go look at this key, this one here. Yeah, so that's not the turn I want. I want it to turn the other direction. So I'm going to copy and paste this key, right? And then I want it to go in the, let me say copy and paste it again. All right. I wanted to go this way. All right. I'm gonna push it back, go above it, so this way I can see it better. And I'll just move it by hand, rotate, and then just look through the camera. All right. Now I'm not sure how this is gonna look, so let's test it. Gonna look at it through playback. If I don't like it, then we're just going to change the entire animation. Oh, I forgot the last keyframe. Hold on, there's one last keyframe. All right, now let's look at it again. Okay. Again, this is about making simple choices and decisions. Boom. All right, so now in this case also, where she bounces up and down, when we look at it, I'm going to change that also. So again, click the pelvis bone, and we know that it goes up and down again. So 20 frames at a time. So we'll go 20 here on the 100, copy and paste. And then on the 160, the 120, copy and paste. All right. So since you see this green strip hasn't gone all the way across, we're going to hit the N key and go to strip in the menu, go down to the bottom, and I'm going to make it 160, and it'll fill it. Okay. All right. So now let's go back to playback. And let's watch it playback. Now we see where she sees him. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to go a little further. So we have it to 160. So now I'm just going to take it to 500 again. And I'm going to make 160 my first frame. Okay, because now I want her to land. All right, so I'm going to do this in 30 frames. All right, so we're going to go right here where it says current frame. We're going to go plus 30. And then in this case, because the animation is further forward. Let's make sure the add is off. Go replace. And I'm going to select everything. And I'm going to go location rotation. And then I'm going to select the pelvis bone again. Okay. Because, oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Let me go to 160, select everything. And then I'm going to move that keyframe back to that. Go back to 190. Because this is going to be 30 seconds, which is 1 second. And then we're going to make her land on the ground. Okay. Because I don't think Zelker's actually touching the ground. He isn't. All right. So let me go fix that. Excuse me. So I want him touching the ground. All right, cool. All right, so here I'm gonna go. I'm gonna have her touch the ground. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna bring her down. All right, and of course her feet gonna start to pierce through. So I want her feet just at the edge because I want her feet to start going down the closer she gets to this spot here. Okay. So I'm gonna do this counterintuitively. Again, I'm gonna go back to global, go to the rotation gimbal. And I'm going to hit location rotation, but I'm going to grab these last keyframes, and I'm going to push them back 20 frames. Okay, because I don't want her feet to start coming down till she's almost on the ground. And then I'm just going to rotate them 90 degrees. I'm going to hit Alt R, and then I'm going to go back to local. Okay, again, so this is about knowing your program. So I'm not doing anything that is some sort of tested method or some method of anything where it's like, oh, this is how you do this exactly. Okay, so as we can clearly see, her feet are not directly 90 degrees. All right, and I think that's only because of the angle of her legs, not because her feet didn't go 90. All right, so if we go back and we see it and it starts to curve down. Okay, so here I'm going to curl her toes, so I know these are selected. I'm going to hit location rotation on those, and I'm going to pull them back to 180. And then I'm going to go back to global because I want them to turn at the same time. And I'm going to bend them a little. And then at 90, we're going to straighten them back out, hitting Alt R. Okay. I hope I did that right. Okay, so one of these didn't turn, so this one's wrong. This one is wrong. Delete those keyframes. I need the other one. See, this is why I don't like those little extra bones. Okay, go to 190 and then Alt R. All right, so now when we come down, and this way they pan out, so she's still not touching the ground. So let me go and fix that. For some reason, what in the world? Where'd that come from? I don't like that. Hold on, delete that. Okay. All right. Let's make it go down. I want her touching the ground. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, so again, I'm going to probably fix these feet because I feel like they're still a little bit off. Yeah, they're a little off. Okay. All right. All right, so let's look at the playback on it. There we go. And I usually try to add a little bit more to make it longer in that regard, but we're going to keep it like it is for right now. Okay. So this animation is going to be right after this, so you need another strip because I use the interlay editor so that things are not piled on top of each other. Okay. All right. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, so let me take a sip of my coffee. Alrighty then. So we have that set. I'm gonna keep her fist like that, but what I'm going to do with him is I'm going to have him walk up to her, or float over to her rather, because these are some pretty powerful beings. Excuse me. So we go back here. I'm sorry. Go back here. Let's hit 3. I forgot that the world was there, so I have to kind of like watch myself. All right. Yeah, there we go. Little stuff like that. Now, another thing I don't like is the fact that it seems like here, I probably would need to do this. Let me get a little close. I probably would need to push this back a little. So as she's landing, because you see how the feet slide, like they slide down. So realistically, we would kind of go back just a little. So once it does slide forward, it's like, or rather, it would go forward then back. Let me delete that keyframe. Let's try this again. This time we'll go forward some. All right. And as it goes, there we go. So yeah. So when you go, so when it goes backward, forward a little bit, she actually lands on her feet. So we can see that, right? That looks better. Turn the overlay off. Yeah, that's way better. And those are little things, again, thinking ahead of what needs to be, what should be or needs to happen, rather than trying to have, thinking that there's some formula to animation. Meaning, when I say formula, there are formulas in a sense, but when I say formula to it, I mean like, oh, you have to do this and then you have to do that. I'm like, no, it's you know the actions you want to do, and then making those actions clear on screen, and that's really what you want to do in animation. Now, however, you can just plug and play animations from, like, if you're using ripped characters, so to speak. So like, for instance, these models come out of Xenoverse 2, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. This is not a Dragon Ball series that I do, so I'm sorry, I kicked the mic. I didn't do a what's the word? I didn't do I don't model characters. Okay, so since I don't model characters by hand, I tend to try to find ways to make characters. So when I first started doing my main channel, I decided to use Xenoverse to make the series, and then people were like, oh, this is Dragon Ball series. I was like, no, it's not a fan fiction, not a Dragon Ball series. These characters have nothing to do with Dragon Ball. I just don't model characters. So when I finally just decided to go ahead and start using Blender, that was the whole mindset. It was like, okay, I don't model characters. How do I do this? Then the learning curve kicked in, and et cetera, et cetera. So me sitting here saying, okay, let me give you a free glimpse into animation. A lot of people want to do Disney animation or Pixar or DreamWorks. They want to do a lot of swooshy, stretchy stuff. But I want you to explain to me, when have you ever, swooped or squished real tight into something? Don't get me wrong. We do have those actions, so to speak, in the sense that we can, crouch low or stand fully erect, but we don't overly stretch or overshoot stretches. So when you see those things in those videos or whatever, in those movies, etc., those are, they're overshot. They're extreme actions. In this case, I focus more on staying closer to what's realistic. So if we really could float and fly, we would just land. Something that you would see maybe in like the Avengers or Black Panther or something. It's more closely tied to realism. Like, people say, oh, it's a superhero landing, but if you did a superhero landing in a Disney film, they would probably stretch out and smear and all of that. But in real life, you would just land. And how would that look? And that's the key here, is to get close as possible. So when we see this playback, let me go back to it. When we see this playback, that's what I want to do. I want to get as close as possible. You see how the feet arc forward, because you will put your feet on the ground and then you would just land straight. That's why I pushed it forward a little. So when she went down, it actually landed back on her heels. Okay. Because I'm looking at and thinking of real actions. All right. Okay. So now in this case, like I said, just interaction with another character. I want her, excuse me, even though she landed, I want him to move forward towards her. Okay. So if we go back to 0 and look at the animation in the playback, and then she lands. Okay, so now that means I also need to animate the camera again. So we go to the camera, make sure you're out of pose mode, go to the camera. We know we can start the camera action at 160. All right. Okay, so now if I come over here again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit I, location rotation, and get rid of that. And then in this case, because we know she's going to start to come down, so I want it to be at about 20 frames. I want it to just start leaning down, or coming down, excuse me, with her. And then I'll just kind of find that space. All right, yeah. Now the problem is that that's, oh, let me select this. I'm going to take it to about 200 frames because now it has a little bit of a delay. Hit V vector because I want it to be a straight line, but I do want it after her. And then probably 30 frames after that, I wanted to zoom in a little. So I'm just going to push in just ever so slightly. Okay. Again, V for vector. Let's see what we have. Yeah. Now in this case, I'm probably not going to vector that. I'm going to take that back to, I'm going to take it to clamped and then make it free. Click everything, go into it. I just want these two. Yeah. All right. See what it looks like. Yeah, because I wanted to like ramp up to it. There we go. So understanding these things, like for instance, what you just saw me do is basically here, this is still a Bezier curve. It's still a Bezier here, but then this last one is an actual like a spline curve. So this one will look linear. Between these two frames will look linear, and then between these two frames would actually have a curve. Okay, where the arc. All right. So, and then basically you will use your handle types like I explained yesterday, or in the other video rather. So in this case, since we have more than one, I mean, I could just push it down, but I'm going to add another one and I'm going to push it down. All right. So that stops at 230 and I'll stop it at 230. Okay. So when that happens, no, I'm sorry. Let me go to 230 because I want to do something after that. I'm going to go 230 to 500 because I want to animate him now. All right, so let's come out of there. Let's go grab his person and I'm going to hit new. Okay. So why I hit new is because I don't want, I didn't want to have to do any sort of animating or whatnot. So I know that this has a thing on it. So if I subtract out of that, I still have a track. Okay. All right. So if I come over here and I go, let's clean it. Let's clean up some data. All right. So now let's go to him. So he doesn't have a control rig. So you're going to get a chance to see me do something. I put him in the automatic pose. So I'm going to grab his actual base bone here. All right. Because usually I would use the pelvis bone, which I need to get rid of this one because that's annoying. All right. I just want the point blank pelvis bone. Okay. So we have the pelvis bone here like I've been doing with her. So I'm probably going to use that to move him forward and backward instead of his base because her base is here. All right. So I'll do the same thing. I'll leave his base down there by itself. So I'm going to click everything. I'm going to go location rotation. And then I'm going to add 45 frames. And I'm going to move. I'm going to hit location rotation again because I like to have symmetry across, and then I'll make my definitive pose. So in this case, I want at 20 frames from this. 24 frames. I'm going to have him come off the ground, right? And then I want his legs to bend backward. Okay, so let's deselect that and select these. And then go back into global mode because I want them to move simultaneously. Have his legs bend back a little bit. Same thing with his feet. I want him to lean a little. Okay. All right, let me fix this. Go into local. And the thing is, you might say, well, when do I figure out how to do that? It's like, again, doing it according to your needs. You just have to keep practicing and playing with it. You don't just do it. You have to think it through. So I'm just thinking of actions that I will want to do in this moment. So I'm gonna go back to global because I know this is going to move. Because if it's in local, let me show you. If it's in local and I move this together, his arms don't always move. Well, they're moving together right now. That's weird. That's different. Okay. Doesn't always do it. So that's why I go into global. But I want his arms to move back just a little bit. And the same thing with these. All right. I want them to see how that did that. That doesn't always work like this. So if I go to global, they'll move together. Okay. All right. Selecting. All right. And grab this bone. Because this is going to take us backward, right? So I want this to go forward. So I'm going to select this one on the pelvis bone. Go back to the move gizmo. And we'll push him forward. Because I realized, like, see how like his legs and stuff snap back to the original position? It's a reason why I allowed it to happen. So we're going to come here. Let me go back to the selection. I just want to select what I had. This way I can copy paste it. All right. And go back to the bone, move tool. And come up off the ground. He's going to move forward. Okay, so here I'm going to make this a vector because I want him to come straight up and then leave this as, and I'm going to make it free. Okay, so, excuse me, and making it free allows me to come in here and grab this, and I'll just push it a little. All right. So start at the beginning point. All right, so since it doesn't go very far, I wanted to go further than that. So we're going to push this a little further than the other one. Take it to about 300 and see what happens. So yeah, it jerks a little, and I think that's, let me push it out some. Yeah, because I mean, I feel like there will be a slight pullback as you go. All right. But I feel like he's still not close enough to her, so I'm going to move that. Uh-oh, I don't want all of it. All right. Okay, so I'm going to push him a little bit further forward. That also means that I'm going to move his head, so I'm going to pick it at about 265. Again, this is just a random choice. It's no rhyme or reason, so don't sit there and go, well, why did you do that, this, that, and other. It's like you have to figure out your animation based on what you want it to be. Okay. Push it back to here. So about 295. And look down at her. We'll go to pick his neck. Slide this back to 265. And I'm gonna bend this forward also. And I want them to ramp. It's cool if they ramp a little. All right, pull back some. Turn the overlay off. So yeah, so it's just a simple action. Again, these are simple actions. We're not doing anything extra complicated. So we just want a small interaction between them. But even here, I'm going to have her hold her head up because when he stops, I don't want him to land. I want him to float, but I also want his arms to come back down. So I think in 20 frames, that should be okay. Turn the overlays back on. So I want his arms to go back to where they were originally. So let's select all of that. Okay. So here I would grab this. Well, no, I would not. Okay, hold on. Let me shift D and I'm going to drag this to 300. And again, this is in, well, that says 15. Okay, my bad, it's 295. All right. So in X amount of frames, I want his arms to go back to the default position. So what I'll do is copy paste. And now when we look at the playback without the overlays, so yeah, as his arms get ready to go down, I kind of want that to move a little bit faster than that. So I'll grab all of this and push it back some. I still think that's too short. There we go. All right. So again, if you look at it, play it. Okay, so I feel like his head at the beginning is just really in a bad spot. So I'm gonna go to his head because I feel like he's not looking down far enough. Same thing with his neck. All right, and I'm gonna grab those two bones, and I'm going to Shift D to 265. I'm gonna delete this one. All right. And then look at it again. There we go. All right, so we can push that down. Okay, and then for her, I'm gonna add another one because I want her to look up at him when he gets close. Make sure that it's not on add. Okay. Oh, doing too much. All right. Gonna literally hit control, select everything, location rotation. I'm so used to saying control for some reason. Okay. Now, being as he gets closer to about 295, I'm going to take it to 290, select all of it, and move those keyframes to there. Now, you might say, how you doing that? I'm like, go to key, go to snap, go to current selection, current frame. I have a quick key for it. All right. So again, learn the program. All right. Learn those little tidbits. Don't just try to jump in there and go, well, I want to do this. Do you know how to deal with transforms and Euler or quaternion? Do you know those things? If you don't know those terms, you don't know those things, you're already on the losing side of this. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to just grab her head, and when he gets closer, I want her to look up. So we're gonna go to about 295 and just have her look up. Okay. So now when I say have her look up, I'm also gonna do her neck also. Bring her head down a little bit. All right. Now understand that there are things that have not been animated yet. So I'm going to take this and make it 310 and this back to 0 and go all the way back to the top. All right. So I'm going to go back into play. I'm going to push this down. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I'm going to go back into here into playback. Okay. So excuse me. All right. So now I want to animate this camera because I feel like at that moment it's not exactly what I want, because I know he's going to move forward, and since it zooms in here at 230, I'm going to give it another track. We're going to give it location rotation, and then as he gets ready to move forward, probably going to take it and excuse me. Give me a second, please. Okay, here we go. So what I'm going to do is let me look at it. All right, so yeah, I want it to move forward. So I'm going to have it move forward some, but not right here. So I wanted to move forward like to 255, and then at about 280, I wanted to start turning and pull back some. So remember, the camera is locked to view, and you just hit N, go to view, and then you can lock camera to view. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So I'm going to, for this one, we're going to vector it, make it a vector, and then leave this as a curve. Okay. And there's a reason why I'm doing that. All right. So I feel like that's too fast. I'm going to pull it out to 305. All right. And push it down so everything plays smoothly. We'll go back all the way to the beginning and ride the train. Let's see what we have. All right, so her head action is a little too snappy. So I'm going to fix that. Okay. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to snap her head. And because the reason why I say I feel like it's too snappy is how fast it goes up. So I know that's on the X rotation. So I'm going to go to the X rotation. And I'm going to just grab this right here. And I'm going to hit GX. And then I'm going to play it back because I just want to see it. Yeah, I just feel like it's too snappy. It's not long enough. So I'm going to stretch this out because it's only that one keyframe, those two keyframes. So I'm going to hit N on the tab, click the actual strip, and then down here where it says playback, is you have playback scale. So I'm going to scale it up to 1.3. So it's a little longer, and you see it's almost to the end of the actual timeline. And I'll play it back from the beginning. Okay, so that was better. Now the issue I'm having now is that I feel like this part is too far back. So I feel like when he starts to move towards her, she needs to start looking up. Okay. All right, guys, give me 1 second, please. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, guys, thank you for being patient and waiting. All right, so let's go back into animation. All right, so I think I found what I wanted to be like. Yeah, because as he starts to go forward, he starts to move forward here. So let's slide this strip back some. And the reason why I use the strips over just messing with the overall animation is it just makes it so much easier to deal with little simple things, like deal with let me see if there's a thing on this. I'm sorry, I just got completely distracted, right? There's no modifier. Okay, so I need to add a modifier to this. All right. So it allows for a lot more control over where the animation sits rather than just having some sort of default thing. Okay, so this way, when you go in to do anything, to do when you go make adjustments to the animation, I can just move these and drag these around. So once the animation is done and I need to fix the animation, all I have to do is go to the tab and then just go to the strip, click the strip, and then hit tab, and then I can make adjustments. If I want to stretch it out, I hit the end button, and I can come down here where it says frame start, frame end, and I can change or adjust the distance. So it just allows me to have more control without having to keep dealing with just a bunch of keyframes all the time, and I can just deal with the actual strips. It's kind of like playing Tetris to a point. Well, not really Tetris, but still. Let's see what we have here. So the camera still has a little bit of motion in it. So it's just having this little bit of offset motion where it's not just sitting still. So I feel like that still didn't give a lot to it. Go to the last one. Because I know it was there, right? Huh. See if I go to 40. Hold on. All right, try it again. Okay, so we want to look at an actual playback of this. So what I'm going to do is come up here, and it's in 1080. I'm not going to do it in 1080. I'm going to do it at 720 at 30 frames a second. And I'm going to make it FFmpeg video on the output, and then make it an MP4. And then we're going to pick a folder. So I'm going to pick the same folder I'm using right now for the actual series. And then I'm going to just create a folder called renders. I'll do it all lowercase. Renders, go into renders. And then I'm just going to call it Play Blasts. And then I'm going to accept it. Okay. So we're going to render this real quick. So I'm going to hit F10. For me, it's F10 because I have a hotkey for it. But you come up here to view, and you can go viewport render animation. But I'm just going to hit F10. And then what it's going to do is it's going to see what's on the screen and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 310. And we're going to wait that out. Okay. So we just want to see our animation. Again, these are basic animations, so I'm not doing any of the detailed stuff like blinking or hand adjustments or little things that can play a big part in making your animation feel more expressive. I'm not going to say natural. I will say expressive, because it's really what you're going for is an expressive animation. And again, we world built on stream last night, just doing little bitty tweaks and stuff, playing with cycles, etc. Okay, so you want to do a playback on this, you can hit Control F11, which is an actual thing, because when you come up here, it says View Animation, Control F11. So we're going to Control F11. It's going to pop up down to the bottom. I'm going to move it and look at the playback. And now we're seeing it in better timing. And that's way better. So yeah, so it's actually what I wanted to be. I'm not tripping. I mean, there are things that I would probably adjust, like her going up and down on the floating. I would probably make that a way slower, and her landing would be a faster. But this is a good way to test your animations, is to do them in the clay render or solid view render. and this way you can make adjustments accordingly. So I always recommend doing this in small fragments instead of trying to do thousands of frames at once. So it'd just be better to just do like 300 frames and then check out, then do another 300. So say you have a 10,000 frame render you want to do, just put it into 300 frame chunks or even 1,000 frame chunks on a play blast so you can see what it looks like and know what you need to change, because you're going to change things in fragments, not in gigantic parts. Okay. All right, so with that being said, I'm probably going to stop right there because again, we have a small interaction. So in the next video, I'm going to deal with things like adding extra bits and pieces, for instance, blinking and eye movements and even other head motions, maybe whatever. We're gonna go through the steps of doing those types of things. So with that being said, appreciate you guys for coming through, and nothing but